heart is going with Ireland. My head's going with Ireland as well.
We're under no illusions how good Ireland are.
Yeah, they've got nothing to worry about. They've got no fear of failure.
We're going to slaughter them.
I know what it takes to win in certain situations. That's my next mission. We want England to win the World Cup.
It's there for us and it's an opportunity for us and one we're really looking forward to having a crack at.
Welcome to England's Road to the Record, a Beyond the Game special from a very wet and windy Dublin. I'm joined by Ali Eakin, rugby commentator. Ali, you'll be at the game, of course, on Saturday. Tension is building. Do England have a chance of making this world record happen?
Yeah, they've got a really good chance, I think. They are in a very confident place. Of course, they blitzed Scotland last week. They are in good shape in terms of personnel. They've got Billy Vunipola back. They can afford to leave Jack Nowell out of the starting lineup. Anthony Watson's in there. I think they're as strong as they've ever been, frankly. Eddie Jones, in marked contrast to last week, yesterday was talking very calmly, very composedly about what they had to do, how to go about it, embracing history, embracing this shot at glory, frankly, because, you know, the opportunity to get a double Grand Slam in the bag and break the world record of consecutive wins in Tier 1, that's special. They will never have that chance again.
Well, as you say, it might be another lifetime again. Certainly these England players won't have that chance again. And you get the feeling, as you mentioned before there, Ali, that the intensity has certainly stepped up from England's point of view.
We're going to slaughter them. We win by 14 points.
When Irish eyes are smiling, English hearts are beating. For those in green, there's not much to lose. For England, anything but victory would result in the kind of hurt that lasts 100 years. Because winning 19 games in a row, well, it could really take another lifetime. And that's why there's everything to gain if you're Irish.
Ireland away, it's going to be difficult.
You know, we'll thrive under that pressure. We'll look forward to it. It's going to be a hell of a challenge, but you know, one we'll definitely be ready for.
Depriving England of the world record on St Patrick's Day really would be the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for Ireland. The Irish stopped New Zealand in their tracks in game number 19 in Chicago, and they're ready to do it all again on Saturday. The only difference this time round is that it would taste that much sweeter denying England.
But this England team don't know how to lose. In fact, Eddie Jones has never lost a game in charge, and judging by his attitude, he's not about to change that anytime soon.
Yeah, we'll go into Aviva Stadium ready to play and ready to take the stage. We know that Ireland are going to come out and have all their guns blazing. Yeah, they've got nothing to worry about. They've got no fear of failure. They were favourites for the competition and now they're out of it. Well, we're going to play better on Saturday. Yeah, when I said most teams, we're not most teams. We're a different team, and I think we've showed that. And we're ready to take it to another level on Saturday.
Ireland will be weaker without their key scrum half Conor Murray, who's out with injury, whereas England are just getting stronger with the addition of Billy Vunipola and speedster Anthony Watson, both added to the starting lineup. The odds are certainly starting to stack up against Ireland. The English roll into town with an All Black-like arrogance, one this team has every right to have. But Eddie Jones' final task en route to greatness will without doubt be one of his hardest, beating Ireland in Ireland and facing the inevitable Irish storm that is coming his way.
Well, some storm that will be indeed. Now, England looking to write their names into the history books and overtake the All Blacks, who managed 18 consecutive games. Remember, 19 has never been done before in top tier rugby. So let's get right into the England camp and speak to some of the players ahead of the big clash.
It was a good performance from us. Scotland were on form. They'd been going well this tournament, and coming to Twickenham with a bit of confidence. So we knew we had to raise our game, and that first 20 was always a focus for us going into that week, and I think we set the tone with our intensity in that first 20.
We put Scotland under a lot of pressure. We did a lot of things really well, and you know, you've got to be pleased with that scoreline. But I guess the frustration or disappointing thing is the soft tries that we leaked. So there's always things to work on. You know, we won't get carried away with ourselves. We were good on the day, but we've got to back it up again this week.
We're under no illusions how good Ireland are, and how good they'll be in Dublin, in front of their own supporters, wanting to stop us from winning the championship.
I guess for us it's not getting drawn into the occasion really, not playing the occasion but playing the game in its own right, and you know, we've got to prepare for a rugby match and not an occasion and atmosphere and everything else. We've got to make sure that we're ready rugby wise, that we're in control of what we're doing, we've got a clear plan, and that we go out and execute that whilst also being able to adapt to whatever Ireland throw at us as well.
Funnily enough, a lot of people wish you the best of luck in the morning and in reception, and you know, everyone's wishing you so well, and you get to the game and then they're not your mates anymore. So we'll expect a bit of that this week. It's just that continued focus on improving, not being satisfied with where we're at, because our ultimate goal is to be number one team in the world, and we're not number one team in the world, so we've still got a lot of work to do, and day by day, week by week, we'll keep doing it.
It's just a great opportunity for us, and you know, we're excited about it. It's we're not building it up to be something it's not. You know, we acknowledge that it's there for us and it's an opportunity for us, and one we're really looking forward to having a crack at. We
don't think past the game that we've got at the weekend, because as soon as you do that, you'll trip up. It's always the next job, next week focus.
Okay, so the players very focused ahead of the big clash. Ali, let's talk about the man at the helm of it all, Eddie Jones. How has he changed this team so dramatically?
Well, he's done two things, in my opinion. He's taken the focus largely off the players so that it is all about him, and week by week, we in the media are talking about Eddie Jones. We're not so much talking about the players, because every time he opens his mouth, he says something interesting. That in itself is canny, because it's allowed the players to grow, and we always knew they were a good batch. Stuart Lancaster grew them, if you like, from their embryonic stages, and he paid tribute, Eddie Jones, to Lancaster in the week, and I think quite rightly, and he has built them into a really confident unit. They are clear in their message, and they know exactly what they have to do. They belong, I think. They feel they belong at the top table of world rugby now.
And you feel like the intensity sort of picked up, and they're going to need some cool heads tomorrow, right?
Absolutely right. They've got leaders now in that side who are growing all the time. We're not quite at the stage of 2003 where there were captains all over the pitch, but they're coming, the likes of Farrell and Brown and Billy Vunipola. And trust me, tomorrow afternoon, with the wind like this and the rain probably coming down, the high balls raining on them, they're going to need some cool heads. It's going to be chaos.
And the whole of Ireland against them as well, of course, on St Patrick's Day weekend. Well, let's delve a little deeper into the mindset of the England camp.
The mind is a wonderful thing. 15 sporting brains working as one is even better. Here at the University of East London, leading sports psychologist James Beale has looked into England's miraculous change in mindset.
One of the things that he does is that he allows the players to have a little bit of autonomy. Now, autonomy is one of the key features with being self-determined, so being able to create your own destiny. And I think the way that he does that is that he lets them have a say in the tactics. He lets them have a say in when those tactics take place, and he lets them have the say in how the team's going to function. And I think when you do that, and you get everybody having a say in something, it's very difficult to people not to buy into the process in the way that the manager wants. So the manager might not be able to come in a really kind of disciplined way and say, we're doing it this way, But the counter to that, the positive side of that, is that it's very difficult for somebody not to be fully immersed and fully engaged in it, because they've chosen it.
It's safe to say the rugby world has not seen anyone quite like Eddie Jones before. With his cheeky smile, quick wit and short temper, he's been compared to some of the great bosses of all time and has even used very similar tactics to control his squad.
Very similar to Mourinho and very similar to Ferguson in different ways, but I think, you know, one of the key things with him seems to be the relationship that he establishes with key senior players. And what I notice is that he's, as well as having a captain, he's also got 3 other players that he's given senior responsibility or senior status to. And when you do that, then he's kind of got them sort of working with him a little bit more than perhaps other coaches might have had. I think that's Mourinho-like. I think that's what Mourinho does. Mourinho's focused on having good relationships with the players. The other person that it kind of reminds me of a little bit is Alex Ferguson, when they keep it in-house. Whatever's going on, you guys and us guys are not going to find out.
But it's all well and good to sing when you're winning. Jones has irritated the media and opposition during press conferences where his side have come out on top. What would happen if England were to start losing?
There's a danger that he might be viewed, instead of influencing the players, as more manipulating the players. And once that happens, then I think we're possibly onto a bit of a ticking time bomb where those players are going to realise that possibly they're being manipulated rather than being influenced in a positive way. And I think if that happens, then I think it could be a kind of it could be the end.
Eddie Jones has mastered the art of control on and off the pitch thus far, but now his players face the toughest mental battle of the season, beating Ireland in Ireland.
So what has made Eddie Jones such a success? Some people point to his winnings with Australia, the Brumbies and even Japan as the real motivation behind it. But Beyond the Game spoke to an old school friend of Eddie's who reckons that it was the fact he was overlooked by national selectors as a player that might have spurred him on.
Well, Eddie's pretty hard to forget. I went to kindergarten with him at La Perouse Public, then obviously to Matraville High. So I've known him for probably 50 odd years, probably 53 years, which is a long time. So I know a lot about Eddie. A lot of it I can't tell you, obviously. Very, very intelligent, but was always the first one to throw the one-liner, to stir the opposition up, and continually did that right throughout, say, 80 minutes of rugby. Just stirred it. We'd scored the tries, he'd irate the opposition.
Australia have it. Mark Ella. Gould overlapped the Campese. Mark Ella, he's done it! A try in every test match! The first time in history!
Eddie was probably one of the, on the field, he intimidated his opposition by mouthing off all the time.
Well, you just said he was a dad.
Yeah, but I think he'll be all right. Is that okay?
Obviously, he knows how to win. Some of it hasn't been attractive, but he's also had a lot of players injured, throughout this Grand Slam. So, he's basically used his smarts.
Well, mate, if I don't say anything, then you come away from the press conference and say it's boring. If I say something, then I'm scaremongering. So I can't win. So the easiest way is I don't come to press conferences.
Yeah, I can understand when people say that Eddie probably holds grudges about not being selected for Australia. He was, I guess, the Randwick first grade hooker, and I think was the first grade hooker for New South Wales when Bob Dwyer, again a Randwick coach, picked Phil Kearns from second grade above Eddie in I think 1985 or something like that. So Eddie probably obviously wanted to represent Australia, and he probably will still remember that he didn't get an opportunity and Phil Kearns took over, and I think that drives him. He's always been very competitive, always wanted to be on top. If he couldn't do it on the field, it certainly helped off the field.
Well, it means, not for me, it means for the players that have achieved greatness. Man, how many times in your life do you get to to be great.
From a coaching perspective, he was very disciplined. He demands respect. He demands that players respect each other. So he's basically started at rock bottom, literally, with the England team. They've had a couple of very, very bad years. Had a bad Rugby World Cup in 2015, and had to start from scratch. And Eddie was good at that. He had to build the confidence back into the players. And whilst we talk about him being cheeky and all those things we spoke about earlier, he knows how to put together a team. And I guess from that perspective, you've got to pay respects, and I think that's what Eddie's demanded from his players, and he's got it.
Well, Ali, we must talk about some of the innovative coaching tactics that Eddie Jones has used throughout his reign. In particular, you reckon he's got a new one coming up?
He has. The last couple of weeks he's been using a goalkeeping coach from Chelsea. Monsieur Lollichamp has been in at Penny Hill Park where they train, and he's been helping the players track the parabola of the high balls. So for restarts and for obviously the back three, and they'll be fielding a lot of high balls tomorrow because the Irish love to send up the high ball and send all their players clattering forwards. He's been helping them out with that, and it's just an example of the little things that he's brought to his training regime. He's previously brought in people from cycling. He's looked at the techniques amongst the judo players about how they grapple and wrestle for the ball, that kind of thing. He is open to all ideas, and the evidence suggests it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. And one person that he has worked with in the past, not only just at England, is Dr. Cheryl Calder. Well, Beyond the Game went all the way to South Africa to meet her.
I teach people how to win. So I've dealt with some of the most elite coaches and elite players all over the world, and there are certain recipes that make you win. And I've picked these from all the people I've worked with and from my own experience as an international player and learning from all these people. I know what it takes to win in certain situations, and what you do in a World Cup final and what you do in a semi-final sometimes is different. But to relay that information to players, I think is vital, and I use my experience and give the teams that I deal with at that point that experience as well. If I work with a coach that buys into what I do and endorses it and talks about it continuously, and has that awareness of, that the players know that the coach endorses what I do, it helps a lot. He also has, I don't want to call it discipline, maybe call it respect, which leads to an amazing work ethic. And the team we've been dealing with at the moment, the England team, they have worked so hard in the I-gym. We check them on a daily basis, and never do we need to say, have you done your training? So that helps, because if you train effectively, you're going to perform effectively. And Eddie has a large role to play in that. He demands respect, and he has a presence. Amazing rugby brain. I mean, that is really the bottom line. A combination of those things are really what any person, any coach in his position would love to have. We have attention to detail, and we make small differences in kind of, other people might think insignificant things, but they actually are significant, and they win World Cups. In 2003, I went back to London because we had the parade through the streets and Buckingham Palace and Downing Street, etc. And I was riding with Johnny in the taxi from the hotel into London. I remember asking him about how did I impact your game with the work that I did, and he said that I used to get the ball and make a decision, run, pass, kick, whatever I did. He says I now used to get the ball and I had 3 decisions and I chose the best one. People think you only have this one decision and you choose the correct one, but if you have 3 and choose the correct one, that's cutting edge. That's my next mission. We'd want England to win the World Cup. We're really in the business of changing people's lives, and if I can make you perform better, which I know I can do for every single person, irrespective if they play sport or not, if I can make you a better individual, that's really my mission. And that's ongoing. It lasts forever.
Okay, so England have now equalled the All Blacks record, looking to go one further. But let's break it down and have a look at how the two sides compare over 18 games.
England's road to the record has been impressive, but how do they actually stack up against their fellow record holders, the New Zealand All Blacks? England's run started with their final game of their failed World Cup bid in October 15 against Uruguay. It was against the Wallabies that they had the most success, with 4 wins, including a historic series whitewash down in Australia. During their run, they amassed more than 600 points, including 72 tries, averaging just over 34 points a game and usually winning by around 18. Home ground advantage played its part, with 11 of those games at Twickenham in London, with only 7 away matches. So how does that record fare against the men in black? New Zealand kick-started their run against the Wallabies, and again it was the Australians who tasted the most defeats with 5. The Kiwis scored more than 750 points in the process, running in more than 100 tries, averaging more than 40 points a game, almost 30 more than their opponents. The All Blacks played 10 of their 18-match run away from home, a run which included the 2015 World Cup, their second in a row. So yes, the stats may differ, but both sides have 2 things in common. They both went 18 games unbeaten, with their 19th match coming against the men in green.
Well, Ali, interestingly enough, we've heard talk that New Zealand-England may be on the cards.
It's a possibility, apparently. First weekend in November, sounds like the RFU are pursuing the possibility of making it happen at Twickenham. There are an awful lot of hoops to jump through. Of course, the New Zealand Rugby Union have to be happy with it. The Premiership clubs have to be happy with it. And at the moment, they're not happy with it. From an English perspective, I would argue, let's deal with the Irish, then we'll address the All Black situation. I think they could be seen to be getting just a tiny bit ahead of themselves.
Well, exactly what Eddie Jones said during the week. He said he's got Ireland first up to worry about. Stop asking him about the All Blacks. And the Irish, pretty formidable here as well.
They are. They don't lose many at the Aviva Stadium, that's right. They've lost 2 of the last 17 here in Dublin. And England, although they've had a good recent record over the Irish in the Six Nations, they've won 1 of their last 6 in Dublin in the Championship. So it's going to be very, very tight.
Well, absolutely. And now let's go to Terry Kennedy, a former Irish winger who echoes your sentiments in thinking that the Irish will take this one. Well, Terry, St. Patrick's Day weekend and the chance to stop England on their way to breaking the world record. Surely the Irish players don't need much more motivation.
I would like to think so. I'd like to think so, Lawrence. I mean, if it's not, we're in terrible trouble. It has to be. I mean, it has to be. So, yeah, I would think it is the biggest challenge. I think they performed brilliantly last weekend against Scotland. It was fabulous to watch. It was the most enjoyable rugby, obviously, of the Six Nations. Against Italy, they didn't perform the way they wanted to, but they have some wonderful players. I mean, they've a wonderful squad. They could put out 2 very strong Six Nations teams. I mean, that's obvious. But as I say, so it's with trepidation that we're facing them, because it needs everything to work. And the Irish said to me, we need to get back to basics and hopefully break the line a couple of times, like England did it at will against Scotland. We, I think, had 1 line break. I think Sandler was the only one who made 1 line break in the whole game against Wales.
And what do Ireland need to do to win this game on Saturday?
I do think they can surprise people. They surprised people, not totally with their win against New Zealand in Chicago. They surprised the bookies. The bookies had them at 13-1. We're not very exciting in the back, so there's no point in trying to introduce that on Saturday, because we're not used to doing it. We're not used to breaking the line. You haven't seen it too often, this Six Nations. So maybe it's to get position. So I think we're going to have to play for position on the pitch. And we're not really going to run in tries from 60 or 70 yards. We haven't done it all season. So I don't think we should go against hype on that one. We should just, Jono and Conor Murray, to run the match from the base of the scrum and put us into positions where we can get the roll and maul going and all that type of thing. And a few penalties. Maybe the odd try. I know it's all very negative stuff, but it's not supposed to be.
And Terry, what will the atmosphere be like on Saturday?
So it's a fabulous atmosphere. As I said, the most respected team, and going to do the Grand Slam again. And obviously they have that opportunity, and they could do it, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that we make a mess of the plans. They'll still have a lovely Saturday night.
And finally, your predictions for the game?
Ireland didn't turn into a bad team overnight. They have some fabulous players. They have a very good squad, and I think that they'll... My heart is going with Ireland. My head's going with Ireland as well. I'm not joking.
Well, what a character Terry is. Now, Ali, before we go, your predictions on this game, of course. You're going to have to...
That is a mug's game, as you well know, but I just think England are in a very, very good place at the moment. They've coped with everything that's been thrown at them. They've worked their way out of sticky situations against the French in the opening round, of course, snatched it at the death against the Welsh. Awkward times all round against the Italians and their rugby. I think they are almost in a place where they are expecting to win every match now, and you would have to say that after the run that they've been on. It will not be easy because we know that the Irish will be fired up like nothing before. It's St Patrick's Day weekend, the fervour, the crowd, the chaos of it all is intense here in Dublin. It's almost like nowhere else in world rugby in that regard. So they'll have to fight tooth and nail for it. It will be thunderous, it will be tremendously exciting, but I'd expect England to come out by 7 or 8 points.
Well, you'd think that just looking at the way they demolished Scotland. A quick word on that Scotland game. As you mentioned there, England starting off very slowly, struggling against the likes of Italy, but wow, all of a sudden they seem to have hit their straps.
If they can find that fluency and that clinical fluency quickly, then the Irish could be in for a difficult day because they don't have Conor Murray, who was absolutely pivotal at scrum half for them, and he will be felt in that regard for sure. I think that they need to click early. If England get a big start, if they start as fast as they did against the Scots, this should be a second Grand Slam and the world record.
Well, 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 England have it all to play for, but wouldn't the Irish just absolutely love to come and spoil the party? That's all from us here in Dublin.